Together. All right, Kayla, are you ready to talk about tonight's case?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, chat, Kayla. By the way, Kaysa is not gonna be here because obviously she just got back. So she needs a little time, which is fine. So hopefully we'll have her here next week for whatever I decide to do. But until then, we are going to be talking about a case that I have personally been obsessed with for a really long time, pretty much since I heard of it. And that is the case of the disappearance of Brittanee Drexel. The year this happened was 2009, and Brittanee was 17. She was just finishing up her junior year of high school with plans to go into either nursing or cosmetology school after she graduated the following year. She was also an athlete. She loved playing soccer, and even though she was only 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, she was said to be a force to be reckoned with on the soccer field. Like everyone said, like she was. I think everything I listened to made a comment about how like she was like one of the fastest kids around. Like the girl could run apparently. She was also described as being very sweet, kind, and outgoing when she was off the soccer field. So it sounds like she was kind of a badass when she was playing. But other than that, she was kind of just a sweet kid who just liked hanging out with friends and just being a normal 17-year-old girl. She did suffer from a condition that she was born with called persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous, which caused her right eye to wander. So she had several surgeries to treat the issue, and she also wore contacts. Kayla, I was telling you that I watched some of the documentary on Disappeared did on it.
Mm.
And in that, they showed pictures closer up of her, and like you could tell in that she was wearing contacts in some of them. I believe her natural eye color was green, but she wore like bright blue contacts, which in the photos that I have up of her on my stream, you can definitely see that in most of the pictures she has those bright blue contacts in.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so um, if you didn't know about her having this condition, you wouldn't know about it because of the contacts and the surgeries that she had. But she did have several surgeries for the issue with her eye. I did read one source that said that she was actually blind in that eye, but I that was only one source, so I can't confirm or deny that. But she definitely did have that thing, whatever it was. Brittany grew up with her mother Dawn and her stepfather Chad in I it looks like Chile, New York. I know it's not Chile. I believe it's Chile or Chile, something like that. It's not pronounced Chile though, but it's
But it's
spelled like
spelled
that.
that
It's
way,
spelled
which
that
is
way.
so dumb.
So although Chad was not Brittany's biological father, Brittany and he were extremely close, and for all intents and purposes, he was her real dad. So in 2008, when Chad ended up separating from Dawn, Brittany takes it as well as any 17-year-old high school girl can, which is, I mean, it's not very good. Uh, Brittany had always been a good student, but after the separation, her grades began to suffer, and Chad believes Brittany became depressed. There was also reports it's not even reports. It is confirmed that there were two instances where Brittany overdosed. It doesn't sound like it was to try to kill herself, though, if that makes sense. It sounds like she was just trying to like get high or something, or maybe even something to do with the surgeries. She took too many of the pain pills that she had, and she ended up having to get her stomach pumped 2 times around this time.
And I
So
mean, as little as she is, that probably wouldn't be very hard.
I know, like I have taken just one oxy before when I was in extreme pain, and I was literally throwing up, like projectile vomiting, because
Oh,
it was just way too much. So, I mean, if and I don't even think it was like that high of a dosage of of the oxy, but I know personally, like, pain medicines have a big effect on me, so I don't really like taking them. And like you said, Brittany was really small, so it definitely probably affected her worse than it would someone else who was bigger.
Yeah.
So Brittany continued to live with her mother during this time when Chad moved out. With everything going on in Brittany's personal life, on top of dealing with being a teenage girl in 2009, Brittany decides that for spring break she wants to do something fun. So, Kayla, do you want to tell us basically what her mom is under the impression is going on? Okay.
And I'll give a little backstory
Okay.
too on it.
Okay.
So it's the town that they live in is like right next to Rochester. And in Rochester, the tradition is all the seniors go to Myrtle Beach for spring break. I thought that was like a little weird. I'm like, why would you go like 14, 15 hours away?
So,
Is your tradition for spring break?
I live where I grew up in Pennsylvania. Scranton is probably like 3 or 4 hours away from Rochester, maybe a little more or less. I'm not super sure, but I know like even where I lived, Myrtle Beach and stuff like that was the spring break spot for kids even in my school. So I think it was like an East Coast thing, honestly, because I didn't really find it super weird that they were taking a trip like that.
Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
where I live in Texas, it's kind of like you can go 3 hours to Galveston,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're feeling crazy, you can drive the 8 hours, go to South Padre,
Okay.
and that's like a whole nother like that's the place for us, South Padre.
Okay, yeah. See, yeah, Myrtle Beach, Ocean City, Maryland, like those were definite places that were like hot spots for at least kids in the northeastern part of the country where I grew up. And this is like literally around the same time when I was in high school. I was a senior. I was 18 at the end 2009 when she was 17. So
Wow.
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to this case actually, is because the age and like I was that girl at that time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, continue on. Sorry.
So, some Brittany is a junior in high school right now, but she has friends that are seniors and they invite her. They're like, "Hey, do you want to go with us down to Myrtle Beach?" She's like, "Oh yeah, let me ask my mom." So she goes to ask her mom, and her mom is like, "No, that's not happening. Like you're 17, there won't be any parental supervision because most of the kids that are going are 18 and up. They're seniors."
Yeah.
And so it turns into a screaming match because, a teenager being told they can't go on this really cool trip that her friends invited her on. I feel that. I got in some of those screaming matches with my mom.
Yeah. My dad and I definitely
So,
had it out a few times exactly for those reasons. That's for sure.
yeah. And so she calls her boyfriend and she's like, "Hey, I need to get out of this house right now. Like, can you go pick me up and take me over to my friend's house?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Comes and picks her up, takes her over to her friend's. And I don't know how much time has passed, but I know it's the same day. She
Mhm.
calls her mom and she's like, "Hey, I'm sorry." Like, apologizes for them fighting and then asks again if she can go. Her
Ah,
mom is like, "No, like, you're not going."
yeah, absolutely not. Like, thank you for apologizing. I appreciate it, but the answer is still no.
Yeah, like, there's so many other reasons why she would say no. And she's not just saying no to say no. But, teenage brain didn't
Yep,
understand that.
not at all.
Totally get it. So then she hangs up on the phone with her mom again. And I don't know how much time has passed, but she calls her back to ask her if she can just stay at a friend's house for the rest of spring break. So it's like Thursday, I think. Tuesday or Thursday that this is all happening.
Yeah,
And so,
the timeline gets a little, that part of the timeline's a little mushed.
yeah. So her mom is like, "Okay, yes, that's fine, but like I want to talk to your friend's mom." So Brittany has one of her friends, other friends, pretend to be this girl's mom.
Oh, the
And
classic.
Dawn, yeah. And Dawn's just like, okay, I talked to the parent, like, it's fine. And as soon as she gets off the phone with her mom, she's like, all right, guys, let's go. They pack up the car and they head off to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, and what does Brittany's mom think that she's doing around this time?
Staying at a friend's house like 10, 15 minutes down the road.
Yeah, and like it was like she was spending the night, so like she wasn't gonna be home then. And so when does like what happens so that Brittany's mom like finds out that Brittany's not where she's supposed to be?
Oh, she's pissed.
How does she find out though?
Oh, how does she find out? Right. The boyfriend calls her because he can't get a hold of her while
Yeah.
she's down in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'll pick it back up. Um so now that we know that Brittany lied to her mom, so her mom thinks that she's staying at a friend's house. She's obviously not at the friend's house. Um, so now that we know that Brittany lied to her mom and that she actually went to Beach against her wishes, let's find out what really happened the days leading up to Brittany's disappearance. So we're gonna go into some of the details about what happened when Brittany got to Myrtle Beach, and yeah, we'll go from there. So, back on April 22nd, when Brittany had told her mom that she was going to be staying at a friend's house in Rochester for a few days, like you said, she was actually in a car on her way to Myrtle Beach. The group that Brittany was traveling with and staying with was made up of two couples and herself. John, Brittany's boyfriend, was not able to go with her because he had work. The two girls, Alana Lipa and Jennifer Oberer, along with Brittany, would be staying at the Bar Harbor Hotel. The two guys that were with them, Phil Oberer, Alana's boyfriend and Jennifer's brother, and oh my gosh, I heard how to say this name and I already forgot. It's Uwer. Uwer
Yeah.
Ozturk. Woo, there we go. That's actually it too. It's Uwer Ozturk, Jennifer's boyfriend. They're gonna be staying at a different like hotel, but on the same beach basically. So the setup is the three girls are in their own room at their own resort, and the guys are at a different hotel in their own room basically. Um, Brittany also happens to have a chance encounter with someone she knows from New York when they arrive in South Carolina. His name is Peter Brozowicz, and he is 20 years old. They ran into each other the first night at a club called Kryptonite. It's not clear exactly how the two knew each other, but from statements made by Brittany's boyfriend in later interviews, it seems like they were acquaintances from parties around the Rochester area. And that I got from Disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany's boyfriend's in that one a lot, and they don't say specifically, but they show like I think he was a club promoter, Peter, and it kind of like shows him like being a DJ or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm pretty sure that's how they knew each other. So first night, all of them go out together, and they happen to run into someone who uh Brittany knows Peter. So she obviously like she's gonna gravitate towards him because as we're gonna find out, things aren't really going like Brittany had thought they were going to. At first, Brittany was extremely excited to be in Myrtle Beach, but it would not take long for her feelings to change. Even though Brittany had just traveled almost 14 hours with the group she was hanging out with, she was not actually close with any of them. In fact, Brittany's boyfriend didn't even really know who they were. And none of Brittany's friends really knew who these people were. So, like, that's like the first, if there's red flags, that is the first one for me. Why are
Uh,
these senior girls inviting a junior on this trip with them when they don't even really what's the connection? I don't understand.
I don't
Um
get that either. Like, why would you go on a trip that, like, even your boyfriend doesn't know these people?
yeah, and I know that he had encouraged her. Like John is very open about saying that she he thought it would be good for her. And he thought that like it's just 3 days. He's like, what can possibly happen in 3 days? Which there's so much that can happen in like literally an hour, let alone 3 days. Um, and Brittany was the youngest in the group. Peter is 20. So they're alone. Like he's 20 years old hanging out with a 17-year-old. I believe the girls are 18. But we'll find out later that some of the friends that Peter has are like 25. That is
Yep.
way too old to be hanging around the 17, even 18-year-olds. I'm sorry. Like, you might be 18, but like you're still a baby. You're still very much a baby.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Brittany was the youngest in the group. John states that Brittany was feeling alienated from them because they were all doing drugs, which was something that Brittany was not into. Which that brings me back to the overdose thing again, where I don't actually really think it was probably for drugs. I think it was just an accident.
Hmm.
Because she wasn't wanting to get into drugs with these girls, which if she had been interested, I mean, this is the time.
Yeah.
Um, so it also seems like Alana and Jennifer were sick of Brittany and not shy about it. The Killer Queens podcast on this case mentions an incident in which the girls allegedly tried to play a prank on Brittany by closing her into a Murphy bed she was sleeping on while she was laying on it. So like one of those like fold up like really rickety like metal framed beds. They apparently tried to fold this poor 5 foot, 100-pound girl into it as a joke or some shit.
See, like this, like all of this stuff happening, like them just being like so mean to her. I'm like, this isn't them be like inviting her to be nice. This is them inviting her to make her life hell.
Yeah. I know, like it's just I don't understand. Like it seems like immediately they were just like there and like okay, like fuck Brittany now for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It does not make sense. And thank you, Homicide, by the way. I appreciate that. You're so sweet. um, So I can only imagine what was actually going on if like that was one thing that was going on. I don't like it was probably terrible. I remember being a 17-year-old girl and how cruel we could all be to each other around that
Mhm.
age and like it was out of nothing other than pettiness. Like that's
Mhm.
it. Nothing other than pettiness. Teenage girls are devils. I'm convinced of it. We are demons.
Yeah.
So basically, Brittany ends up spending a lot of time just walking around Myrtle Beach alone and texting John so that she doesn't have to be around the group. And that just like breaks my heart. Like I just imagine this poor girl just walking around like just sad, no
And
friends.
and she couldn't even call her mom and be like, "Come pick me up."
Yeah, I know. And like I'm sure that she at some points had wanted to and there's things that she has said or did say to her mom that I think might point to her trying to like out herself on what she had
Mhm.
done. But this brings us to Saturday, April 25th. This is when Brittany meets up with Peter and some of his friends at the beach, who I mentioned. His friends are some of them are like 25, and he is 20. Keep that in mind. So after spending the afternoon there, Peter gives her a ride back to her hotel. Somewhere during this time, Dawn calls Brittany to check in with her and to talk about some soccer cleats that she had just bought her. When Dawn asks what Brittany is doing, she tells her that she is at the beach, which is what I was actually just talking about. I feel
Mhm.
like that was in some way Brittany trying to tell her mom that she was where she was not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Dawn doesn't really find anything suspicious about it though, because it happened to be an unseasonably warm day in New York, and there was a lake nearby that had a public beach. So she just thought that Brittany was at the beach like 20 minutes down the road from their house in Rochester. So later that evening, around 8 or 8:15, traffic cameras spot Brittany heading towards the Blue Water Resort, Peter's hotel. Blue Water is about a mile away from the girls' hotel, the Bar Harbor. About 10 minutes after arriving at the Blue Water, Brittany gets a text from Jennifer stating that Brittany needed to come back to their hotel because she had changed her mind about letting her wear the shorts she had uh, that Brittany had borrowed from Jennifer. So basically, Jennifer sent her a text. She's like, "Yo, I told you you could borrow those shorts you're wearing, but I changed my mind, and now you have to come bring them back to me."
Which
Um,
is such a mean girl thing to do.
like I just imagine like Jennifer texting Brittany and being like, "Hey, like, where are you?" And Brittany being like, "Well, I just got to Peter's hotel." And Brittany, or then Jennifer being like, "Okay, well, now I want the shorts back." Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like it just these girls infuriate me. They infuriate me.
Hmm.
So, understandably, Brittany is extremely annoyed, but Jennifer wasn't concerned. She didn't care with her. She didn't care that Brittany was annoyed. She didn't care that she just walked a mile and that she had only been with Peter for 10 minutes. She wants her shorts back. So Brittany decides to leave the hotel and make her way back to the Blue Water. It is not clear why Peter doesn't give her a ride back to the hotel, especially since he had given her a ride earlier in the day. That's another huge question. Like, why did he not give her a ride that time?
Hmm.
Um, so he doesn't though. She ends up leaving again, and let me just see here. I lost my spot just a second. So yeah, she leaves. Oh my gosh, why am I having such a hard time finding my spot? All right.
Right here?
Mm,
I was
yeah.
about to do the
Okay.
same
Yeah. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, yep. 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 All right. So, okay. Yeah. Like I said, it's not clear why Peter did not give her a ride back to her hotel, especially since he had already given her a ride earlier in the day. But he doesn't, and Brittany leaves the Blue Water to make the mile-long trip back to her hotel. She is still texting John this entire time. In the disappeared episode, he states that they would exchange texts at least every 10 minutes. Which I don't think that's anything weird. Like, she's a teenage girl, it's her boyfriend, and she's having a shit time on vacation with a bunch of mean girls.
Hmm.
He explains that her texts during this time were all about being excited to come home because she was having such a bad time. John knows almost immediately that something is not right when 20 minutes go by without getting a reply from Brittany. As the minutes go by and John continues to text Brittany trying to get a response, he becomes more desperate. In a last attempt to get her attention, John tells Brittany that if she doesn't answer him, he is going to tell her mom where she really is. It is at this point, when he receives no reply, that John does exactly what he told Brittany he was going to do. He calls her mom to tell her everything and to let her know that he thinks that there is something extremely wrong going on. So obviously, Dawn's pissed at first, like pissed, and I think she has every right to be. I mean, me as a parent, I would be fucking livid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how many times she must have told that girl at least 50 times she couldn't go, but she did. And it's now 3 days later, and she's finding out that Brittany was lying to her the entire time. So after John expresses to Dawn his fears for Brittany's safety, Dawn's anger quickly shifts to panic. Not only was her daughter 14 hours away, but she is no longer answering her phone. She tries over and over, but it just rings and rings until eventually it just goes right to voicemail, which that has to be the worst feeling in the entire world.
Yeah.
I remember this happened like a month ago or so. My best friend, something happened, like we location share with each other just in
Hmm.
case. And I had opened up a text from her, and for some reason I accidentally opened up her location, and it was like not found. So it's like, okay, like that's weird. So me being me, I was like, I'll just check back in a little bit, like maybe something weird is like going on with her phone. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it kept saying like location not found, and she wasn't texting me back. Like I was like texting her all day, like just random shit to try to like get her to say something, like, but not to let her know that like, oh my god, I'm like kind of panicking and like stalking your location.
Yeah.
And one of the last times I checked her location, it showed her pin in the middle of the fucking water. It was the
What
first
the?
time it had shown up all day, and it showed up in the middle of the water. So I was like literally like in tears, like I couldn't get a hold of her. Eventually, like in the morning, I finally did, and she was like, oh my god, dude, like I'm so sorry. She's like, I've just been so fucking sick. Like I guess she got like a really bad stomach flu and like was either puking or asleep that entire time. And
Oh man,
we still have no idea why her pin was in the middle of the water. So like ugh. So like
that's weird.
right? So like that just makes like that reminds me of like if I had called her and her voice if her phone had gone straight to voicemail if I called her, I don't know what the fuck I would have done. But luckily she got back to me before it got to that point. Unfortunately for Brittany's mom, though, that's not the case. And Brittany's phone does eventually just start going straight to voicemail. Um, John did not have any of the phone numbers for anyone that Brittany was with, but Dawn did because one of the stipulations for letting Brittany stay with her friends over spring break was that uh, Dawn called, like you said, they put the friend on the phone pretending to be the mom. Well,
Hmm.
I believe that it was either Jennifer or Alana, the other one. Alana, was that her name? Yeah,
Yes.
Alana. It was one of those two. She tried calling them over and over and over. They never answer. They never call her back, and they have never called her back. To this day, Dawn has never talked to either one of these girls. Um, which again, like if you're her friend, why aren't you searching for her? Why aren't you like talking to her mom? What is going on here? What is going on?
Yeah, I don't like these girls at all.
Me either. Um,
Like,
go ahead.
I get that they're 18, but I wasn't even that much of a bitch when I was 18.
They're being like malicious.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's not even pettiness at this point. It's just straight up malicious and shady. And I mean, it's time to just grow the fuck up and like face like you need to face this girl's mother, which I
Hmm.
still think that they need to do.
Oh yeah.
But they never answer. So somehow Dawn gets Peter's number. Was never able to figure out how this woman did it, but she did. She gets Peter's number, and he does talk to her, but the conversation she has with him just leaves more questions than it does answers. The stories he is telling her are scattered and not very consistent. When Dawn asks him if he can help start the search efforts while she makes the trip down to South Carolina, Peter declines and states that he is not her babysitter.
I
Oh, fucking Christ.
I kind of I kind of get it.
I kind of get it, except for the fact, like, I don't know. I guess I just think my brain thinks about things differently because I'm someone who's like interested in stuff like this. So like maybe someone like Peter, he's just like, oh whatever, like it's not a big deal. Like me, I'm like I hear that and I'm immediately like, oh my god, like I will give you every bit of information I know.
Yeah. I mean he might think that like she probably she just got caught up at the other hotel and maybe she's just not answering her phone or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So I feel
So
like that's probably where his mindset is.
yeah, and I can see that maybe as an initial reaction, maybe, but
Mm.
his demeanor stays like that pretty much through the whole
Yeah.
thing. So luckily Dawn has a friend in the area named John Hahn, who I believe is in some sort of form of the military, because it sounds like he leaves his base to drive up to Myrtle Beach, and he is the one to file the missing persons report. After the report is filed, the police go to Bar Harbor Hotel to start the investigation. When they get to the room the girls are staying in, they knock, but they get no answer. After a few more knocks go unanswered, they get the room unlocked and enter. They find most of Brittany's belongings still in the room. Her clothing, makeup, and flat iron are still there. They also find some of Alana and Jennifer's things around the room, but none of the girls are actually there. So, do you want to talk
Which,
about what
hmm,
happens with the girls and Peter's group this night that Brittany goes missing?
yeah, because it blows my fucking mind. Like,
If you weren't mad
so,
before, you're gonna be mad now.
yep. So, like Siren said, like, there's still Alana and Jennifer's things in the room. But that night, Alana and Jennifer decided to just completely change hotels. Didn't check out or anything. They were just like, oh, we're just going to go get a room at this other hotel. I don't remember what hotel, but I know it was close
Yeah, I think it
to
was
where
still
they
on
were.
the
Like,
beach. I don't.
yeah. They were just like, oh, we're just gonna move hotels and not tell Brittany. Like, was this planned already? Were they gonna do that and just like leave her in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah,
Or was like this other hotel just closer to where they were going out that night?
that's true. I never thought of
They
it like
still went out
that.
that night.
I never. Maybe play devil's advocate for a second. I don't even want to because it doesn't really make sense. But maybe they got too wasted and they, for whatever reason, thought they should just get a hotel closer to, like you said, where they were partying that night. But it's like,
Yeah.
just get a freaking cab. If you're going to spend the money on getting another hotel room, just get a freaking cab.
Yeah. It's I don't understand that. And they didn't even take all of their stuff. So it's like, were they planning on going back to that room to get their stuff?
Yeah,
Did they ever go back to get it?
and that's the thing. Like, if it was planned, that's one thing. But if it wasn't planned, that's something like
That's
totally, yeah.
suspicious.
And that's
That's
just,
weird.
and that's just the two girls. That's not even what Peter and
No.
company does.
Peter and company still go out partying that night, just like Jennifer and Alana. Do their little thing. And around 1 or 2 a.m., they just decide, we're going to go home right now. And they leave.
Yeah, like home, not to hotel.
Yeah,
Like,
they drive back to New York home.
and didn't they leave like all of their stuff in the room and like forfeit a
Yeah,
deposit or
so
something?
yeah, because they checked out early, they forfeited their room deposit. So however much that was, probably like $500
I
selling
would imagine
hotels on the beach.
spring break, hotel on the beach. Yeah.
And they left a bunch of things in the room. Like, I think I don't remember which podcast it was. I think it might have been Killer Queens, but it could have also been the Obsessed with Disappeared.
Mhm.
They said that apparently one of the Peter's friends' parents found out they were in Myrtle Beach and they weren't happy about it. So basically, according to them, they needed to leave right there, right then and there.
Yeah, I think that was Killer Queens. And I liked the argument they made. It's like, what parent is going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, drive drunk at 1 a.m. back home because I'm mad that you are down there and you lied to me. And you're
Yeah,
18, by
just
the way.
yeah. Once I turned
So
18, my
sketch.
mom was like, kind of like, okay,
Yeah, my dad was super strict, but as soon as I turned 18, he was like he didn't like it if I stayed out, but it was like nothing he could do about it, and he didn't
yeah,
try to do anything about it. It's like you're an adult, you're on your own now with that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
it's just
we have every single person that basically Brittany was in contact with that we know of down in South Carolina, either changing rooms or just completely leaving the state the night that she disappears, within hours of her disappearance. Super sketchy.
super suspicious.
Super suspicious. I Oh, and also didn't Peter lawyered up when he got home, did he not? Like right
Yes.
away?
Immediately when he got home.
And I know this is like a catch-22 because I know if I was in this situation and I thought that anyone would be suspecting me of anything, even if I knew I didn't have anything to do with it, I would lawyer up. That is my advice to anyone, but I still think it's suspicious. People do it. So I'm an asshole hypocrite and I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
I'm the same way. I'm like,
Uh,
why are you lawyering up? Me
yeah.
knowing full well I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so that is what the group is doing the night of the disappearance. So Brittany's cell phone and purse were not found with the belongings found at the Bar Harbor Hotel. Police tracked her phone's network pings and discovered that they stopped abruptly on the morning of April 26th, about 60 miles south of Myrtle Beach.